Yo, so I created a poll recently on my YouTube channel asking what kind of challenge run I should do. And what won was a trouble-only playthrough of Borderlands 4. So that's what we're doing today. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. I have been dreading this playthrough for a little bit. However, a few good things happen here. As you see, I started, and of course I'm on hard mode, and I got level 2 immediately, and I was confused as fuck. But recently, Gearbox added a change where you keep all of your progressions, even on a new game. So all of these challenges here are already completed, and the challenges give you XP. So I'm actually starting the game at level 2, which is very helpful, because the only way to get level 2 in here would be opening loot boxes, which I would have to spam do. So it kind of gets rid of that annoying aspect of it. And another thing it also does is it gives me the boost pack upgrades right away. Now that is huge. That is really, really huge. So this run is kind of a little bit on easy mode. Now, at the time of recording this, they did also release that they will be, in a future update, making it toggleable. So you can actually make it so the shared progression is turned off. So I wouldn't start at level 2. I would start at level 1, and I would have to do all the grindy stuff again. And I'm not gonna lie, that is really how it should be. But because I've been dreading this trouble run so much, I figured I might as well play through it. It's just gonna save me a little bit of time when I turn level 2 right away, so I don't have to grind for level 2 at the start in the prologue. And as well, the boost pack upgrades actually make a lot of the game a lot easier, specifically the bossing portions of the game. So as you've seen in the background, I run through the prologue pretty easily. Now I do want to mention for this run, I'm using no gear, so no shields, no rep kits, no enhancements. The only thing that I am using, no ordnance as well. The only thing that I am using is class mods, but they unlock at level 20. And the reason why I do that is I think it creates a more fun overall end result. It also gives me something to kind of grind for later. Because otherwise the only way to make trouble better would be by leveling up and via XP. So I do think the class mods is a little bit more fun. And I will note that I have my rep kit. I have no rep kit equipped. Now if you have no rep kit equipped, the game will automatically give you a default rep kit. That is very bad. Yeah, so that is what I am using. I am allowed to use that cooldown. However, I'm not allowed to use any rep kit, what do you call them, modifier. I'm not allowed to like pick them up and use any item rep kit. It always has to remain unequipped, so it will be whatever the game default gives me. Now, because I start at level 2, the prologue was actually a breeze, like a breeze, and a lot of the early game is quite easy. I aptly name our character there, the crazy cat lady, and I'm looking at the map and everything's unlocked, and I've done a number of playthroughs of Borderlands 4, and that is shocking to me that everything is unlocked. It made things so much easier because I don't have to re-unlock safe houses or silos, and each safe house using only trouble could take, you know, sometimes from like 20 minutes up to a full hour just to get these things. So this was a huge time saver. And again, I think I wouldn't say it's cheating. It's just going to make things a lot faster and more enjoyable, a little less grindy. So, but it doesn't actually really help you all that much, except for the fact that you get the boost pack upgrade this early. And that is really important. So, over here at Splash Zone, I was having trouble getting to go over the bridge and start hitting Splash Zone, okay? So I succumbed to having to just spawn my action skill, you know, use my action skill to spawn trouble there. But then Splash Zone has this spinning attack that just one-shots trouble. So I have to hide in a corner and wait for trouble to respawn. So I found this nice little hidey spot up here on the high ground, and legitimately, Trouble's still over there across the bridge. He hates coming over. I just have to wait, and I use my action skill on Splash Zone, get as much damage as I can off, and then Trouble will get one shot by Splash Zone spinny attack, and then I have to wait the cooldown out again. So it was a lot of just sitting here, waiting that 45 seconds for Trouble to come back, or whatever it is, for my action skill, and spamming my action skill on Splash Zone until eventually we killed him. Lovely. Now, adding a little insult to injury here, for my grenade-only run, this would have been fucking amazing. It's a purple grenade at level 4. Now, if you didn't watch my grenade only run, the first time I got a purple grenade was like level 7 or 9. And it was a game-changing thing. If I got a purple grenade at level 4, it would have made that run through so much better. So that's just a slap in the face. But anyway, I tried to make trouble break through this door here. Unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff like that in the game that are untargetable by trouble. You have to either shoot them or melee them. So there are things, and for all of those, of course, I'm going to be only meleeing those. However, I do have to melee those. So as soon as we did that, we kind of got the claptrap introduction section out of the game, out of the way, and then we immediately go to bounty farming. So the only way, like I said, for me to make trouble stronger is to level up and through XP, because the only things that I can get are XP points to benefit trouble. Now, I did get my new sick whip, my sweet ride, rocking the itty bitty kitty committee, because everything's got to be fucking cat themed, right? And I have my cool whip, and we go over to take on Horus, who is the next kind of boss in the game. Now, I will say, compared to the grenade only run, and this would be regardless of whether or not we have shared progression, because I would be roughly the same level anyway. It is so much easier to do this with trouble. And the reason why is because trouble is targetable. So enemies just target trouble. As you can see, Horus targets trouble pretty much the entire boss fight. And all I have to do is worry about the other mobs that are going to be looking at me and try and avoid them. So you can see them shooting at me sometimes. Like this one here, I got to sneak around the corner because he's trying to hunt me down. But then I literally just wait out trouble. Trouble's starting to deal some damage. You see that crit there? That was a juicy one. And yeah, eventually I kill Horus, no problem, first try. Now, I will say, that was like, you know, maybe a 10-minute fight, but it was first try. That's pretty good. For the grenade-only one, let me tell you, that was not first try. That took a while. Anyway, I found this Tiger of Partali. Pretty sweet skin here, but it's the only one with a cat reference in the name, so we gotta go it. And then I'm back to bounty farming. Shocker, like I said, the only way to make trouble stronger is by leveling up, and I do need a strong trouble. I don't need it, but it makes it a lot better, a lot easier to play the game. And this is a spec we're kind of running. I'll show you a little bit more about the spec. Here, Trouble became Jesus. Actually, better than Jesus. He's walking on air. Jesus never did that, to my knowledge. So, shoutouts Trouble for being fucking literally godlike. But yeah, anyway. So, we move on. We're going to Zadra at this point. Like I said, this stuff here, I can't target Trouble on it, unfortunately, so we're going to have to take it out with a melee. Trouble gets in there, no problem taking out these turrets. Trouble is pretty good with that. And I will say, up until this point, I've had very little issues with Trouble. There is a way to target enemies with Trouble. You can middle mouse or use your ping. For me, I'm on PC, so it's middle mouse button onto a target. And Trouble will go and target that target. Now, it's not the most consistent. He's pretty slow at doing it. But it is a nice thing to have, so you can kind of control Trouble. Now, I did get to level 15 here, and I start using Vorpal Fang, which is basically a projectile attack that Trouble gets. It also gives Trouble more crit chance, which is very, very nice. So it's really, really strong, specifically for mobbing. And for the next boss that's coming up, it's very important. And the reason why is because it's the only augment that we have that is a ranged attack. And if you know what's coming up, you know that it's the Oppressor. He is a flying boss, and I thought that would be really difficult to do without Trouble's ranged attack augment. As you can see, stuff like this also happens all the time where Trouble just bugs out. He's in the fucking floor. Trouble, what are you doing? Get out of the floor, buddy. We need you to kill this fucking flying thing. Anyway, I thought this was going to be hard. I thought this was going to be really hard because Trouble is like, you know, a melee character. But as you can see, those 5 hits, that was the augment doing the work here. So when you use the augment, Trouble sends out 5 attacks, and they do a pretty good burst of damage, as you can see, each time I do it. So I just have to kind of run around the map, wait around. Oh my gosh, almost had a lisp there. Wait around, and eventually we take out the Oppressor as well. Oops, bumped my mic there. No problem, no problem. And then, of course, we're back to fucking farming. We're back to farming, get a few levels. And then I'm moving on to take on the next boss. I'm starting my story mission in the Fade Fields. So the next boss is going to be Bulkhead. Bio Bulkhead. So we're on our way there. There he is, you know, running away. And I'm vibing to music. Jeez. Okay. Like I said, these things that are targetable that you need to destroy, they're kind of a pain in the ass to do in this, because like I have to climb over there to melee it. But we're doing it all via melees. Here, I think Trouble could attack it, but it didn't count, so that wasn't fun. Anyway, I am trying those things, trying to make it really all Trouble doing all everything. And as I was saying, I wasn't having too many problems with Trouble, besides the occasional time he bugs out and whatever. And when I go down into fight for my life, of course, I can't actually do any damage myself. I have to pray for Trouble to kill an enemy for me. So, like this, I have to find an enemy and ping them, like that. And that will make Trouble go and target them. However, if Trouble is dead, obviously I'm shit out of luck. So that's what happened in that case. But eventually, and this took me like 3 or 4 tries, I whittled down Bio Bulkhead. I got close here, but unfortunately, no cigar. Didn't get him that time. But eventually, I kill Bio Bulkhead. He says, fuck you to that. What are those things? Bio canisters or something? Yeah, he said, fuck you to that one anyway. Eventually, we do take him out. That one, again, wasn't too bad. So, I was actually pleasantly surprised. I was like, I'm not completely dissatisfied with Trouble's damage. It's not been terrible. It's not been anything amazing. But the fact that Trouble also targets, like, takes target aggro makes fighting things so much easier in general, because I don't have to worry about them shooting at me, because they're all going to be shooting at Trouble, which is very nice. However, we are having some difficulties keeping Trouble alive. And if Trouble's not alive, then Trouble can't hit things. And if Trouble can't hit things, then we can't kill shit. So, Zadra and Rush have a little pissy fight here. And then we go and release these bio canisters, or whatever they're called. And we're on to Rush the Gate, I think this one's called. Yeah, we're on to take on Idolator Soul. Idolator Soul? One of them. Anyway, Trouble's doing pretty good here. Trouble's doing pretty good. So I'm still using that ranged attack as the augment. But as you can see, his damage is pretty good. But he's still dying regularly like that, so I do have to run away, wait out the cooldown. It's, you know, a lot of running around, kiting. But we're leveling up, we're getting stronger, Trouble's getting stronger. I'm getting a few points down here in that middle section. Now, the reason why I'm going that section is it gives Trouble the most damage that's not on a kill skill. Like, Trouble has good damage skills that are all on kill skills, but that middle one just gives him some extra crit chance, so we're getting a lot of that stuff here. Now, like I said, I was having some survivability issues, so I tried this Beast Mode augment instead to help me out with the survivability of Trouble. And what it does is when I use it, Trouble becomes immune to damage, he gets bonus move speed and bonus attack speed. But mainly, he can't take damage. So here, he's tanking multiple enemies, and he's not taking damage, and that makes it a lot easier for him to take on certain places, certain enemies when he's just dying all the time. Like this boss, for example. This was a badass. This took me a long time to kill. Is he? No, he's not even. If this guy had regenerative or something like that, he would be like pretty much impossible to kill, because Trouble would go and try and fight him, and then he would die, and then I have to wait for Trouble to come back, and by the time I do, the regenerative guy would have been full health, you know. So we're still, you know, we gotta be patient. This section here, I honestly, I was gonna fight and kill all these guys, but I just jumped through all of it. I just jumped through all of it and ran right to the boss fight. It's really nice that you can do stuff like that. Now, I use Beast Mode here, again, because I think Trouble is gonna die. However, later in the fight, I learned that he actually doesn't take damage from the one attack that I thought he would have the most trouble with. I keep saying that, Trouble, and I don't mean to. I'm sorry. Trouble puns are gonna be hopefully dying down soon. Anyway, so Trouble's like not really taking as much damage as I thought. Now, granted, I am using Beast Mode here, but I thought because Idolator Soul has this like big AoE attack where he makes the ground deal damage. This one here. And I thought that Trouble would take big damage from this because there's no way for him to avoid it. However, I was pleasantly surprised to know that Trouble just doesn't take damage from that. He's immune to the damage from that, even if Beast Mode isn't active. Now, Beast Mode is active here. However, when it becomes unactive, you'll see that he takes pretty much negligible damage. It's really insane. So with our skills, we have some skills giving Trouble like some overshield and some sustainability. So you'll see I swap over to Vorpal Fang to try and speed things up because this fight is taking quite a while. And you'll see that when that big AoE damage comes out from Idolater Soul, Trouble doesn't actually take any damage from it, which is very, very nice. So in due time, I get very close to killing Idolater Soul, and then I get fucked, but Trouble saves my ass. Thank you, Trouble. He comes in clutch there. That was huge. Now, I won't be giving Trouble too much praise in this, and that's because right around this point, Trouble's benefits start to dwindle. And what I mean by that, he takes aggro, which is great. And he does deserve pets for that fight, because that was a great fight. He takes aggro, which is amazing. His survivability is, it could be better, but it's not unbearable. And his damage is okay. So all of these things are adding up for it to be very, very easy. Up until this point. However, like I said, this is where some difficulties really do start to arise. And we do face some incredible difficulties, like some things that make the run borderline unplayable or ended, you know? So, like I said, I already have the boost pack upgrades, and that's the only reason that I would be doing the vaults in this run. However, I figured I would do the vaults anyway, because, you know, the fact that I already get the boost pack upgrade is kind of cheap, and I think doing the vaults is a mandatory part of the Borderlands 4 playthrough, so that is what I'm doing. And we run into our first Vile enemy. Now, Trouble, I was having trouble with this, but then I discovered this augment here, which what it does is when you activate the augment, it makes Trouble blow up. However, if your action skill is active, instead of blowing up and dying completely, Trouble deals a third of his own health instead of all of his health when your action skill is active. And it does a big explosion around Trouble, and that big explosion was enough damage to take off the crystals and to destroy them. So then that let me take on the Vile enemy and kind of take my time with him, which was perfect. And we're moving on to the vault here. Now this, again, in the grenade-only run, you might, I don't know how much I showed it, but this boss was a bitch for a couple of reasons. One, we had no boost pack upgrades. And two, this boss would target me. And his attacks were really hard to avoid. Some of them, in particular, being like next to impossible to avoid. And I'll point those out when they come up, because they do come up. But in this case, it's literally Trouble is just taking aggro from this beast. This is the attack that's like unavoidable. The boss puts his little tentacles in the ground and they come up and they auto target you. And they're really hard to avoid. But I just think it's so funny to see a little cat just taking on a giant fucking dinosaur looking monster. Now, we're coming up to the end here, and I'm legitimately at 1 health. I'm sweating my ass off because, again, all of these fights look like they're a breeze. But this was like a 20-minute fight. Look at my face. Yeah, I was pretty relieved to get this one done. Because, again, the last run-through of the grenade-only run that I did, this was an incredibly hard boss. So that was really, really tricky. Now, we got to the point where I got not only, I'm level 20, so I got a class mod, but I have enough points to get 5 points into that one skill, giving me crit chance on Trouble, which is very, very nice. We're starting to actually progress in the levels here. We're up to 21. So we're getting a lot of points into crit chance. We're getting a lot of crit chance, which is really nice. And I'm kind of switching my augment around to whatever's best for the situation. And then I get this drop. I get a Teen Witch drop. All pure luck. That was a world drop, by the way. And I immediately go to swap to it. Now, this class mod is good. It's not great for Trouble. It's not giving Trouble any benefits. However, it does have one major benefit that becomes very helpful later. I also crashed. This happens when you play Borderlands 4. Lovely. I kept that one in. Yeah, it has one major benefit that will become very apparent later, and specifically with boss fighting. But essentially, when your health is full and you deal damage, you get overshield when you have the Teen Witch equipped. So that includes when Trouble deals damage, it gives me overshield, which is very, very nice for my survivability. Specifically, in some of the later fights, it becomes quite literally necessary and the reason why I actually complete the fights. Now, this fight was very tricky, just because this guy has these, like, those little frost zones, and they explode, and they one-shot you. However, it does have a lot of enemies that are flying around that are really easy for me to target with trouble. It's really, really easy for me to target with trouble. I also get a Siphon Watts for Dinner drop on my first kill of this boss. I was so pissed about this because I would love to use this shield. This is an amazing shield, but I can't, of course. So I go to farm this boss again a couple of times. Now the reason why is because he drops a class mod that I'm looking for. Class mod that benefits trouble. It's the Kindred Spirits. Now the Kindred Spirits does have a thing that benefits you when you're shooting with a gun, but we can't use that. All we want it for is for the points that the class mod specs into, and this one specs into some pretty good points. The one in particular, I thought this was like the worst one I could possibly get. However, it gives me 6 points in Grave Command total. It gives me 3 from my class mod, but I can have a total of 6, which this gives me so much refresh on my command skill that it is insane for mobbing. So I actually lucked out on that drop. It becomes a mobbing staple for me. So when I'm mobbing, that's pretty much the only class mod I'm going to want to use. I got it on like my 5th drop, and I was really happy with that. I did not want to be farming that boss for so long, so I'm really glad that that happened. And I move on to the terminus range portion of the story. Jesus words. Okay. So, we're here. We go to hunt out Defiant Calder. That's where we're heading next. I love his intro animation. I don't think I'll ever not include it in a video because I just think it's fucking sick. He looks badass. So after watching Calder mogging on the order, we head in to take on the next boss. Now, I talk about the difficulties, and the difficulties really, really show themselves in this next boss fight. And the reason why is pretty simple, but basically when you go into fight for your life, Trouble can target an enemy. And Trouble can target an enemy to kill that enemy, and that's how you have somewhat of control to be able to get back up and get a second wind. However, in this next boss fight, Trouble can't target any of these enemies that this boss creates. So this boss creates, it's the Sky Spanner Cratch. I did not expect this to be the boss that got me, but this was it. This was a really hard boss. He creates these little flying bird things that hunt you down and they explode on you. And he also drops these like balloon things that also explode. However, Trouble can't target any of these. You can't ping them. There is no way to make Trouble shoot at them. None. So these things will hunt me down and they will explode. And you can't destroy them either because the only way to destroy them is by dealing damage to them, and Trouble can't target them. So we have to go through this entire boss fight without getting knocked. That's the only way to do it. So I go through a series of attempts. Now I'm just showing you the deaths here. But know in your heart of hearts that this is like, each of these fights is like 20 minutes long probably. So I go through a couple of respecs here, and I prioritize bossing to a T, so I get rid of all of my mobbing skills and just go into things that can help me for this boss fight. And I'm still dying over and over and over again. And this is where that Teen Witch comes in play. So as you'll see, when I'm full health, that I'll get some overshield. Another strat that I was using is I would hide in this corner, and when you use Trouble's action skill, he kind of spawns there and explodes, and it lets me blow up those auto-targeting like bats that hunt me down and explode. So this was the closest I got to killing Sky Spanner Cratch, and it's really close. We are like a quarter down, but spoiler alert, those birds are fucking demonic. There's a ton of them, and they hunt me down, and they blow me up. So my strat that I developed was going to hide in that corner, use my action skill to try and blow up the bats when they spawn, and then I can use that Violent Outburst augment, the one where Trouble blows up cumulatively on top of that. However, I was still having so much trouble with it, I decided to go and farm some more bounties, so I farmed up to level 26, letting me get to my capstone, Double Trouble. Now what this does is it gives Trouble the chance to create essentially a clone of himself. That clone deals 75% damage of the original Trouble, and the chance for the clone to spawn increases when you crit. So we want to spec into crit to make that happen. And in this play session, I was still having a lot of trouble. So a lot of difficulties. I'm saying Trouble a million times. I'm going to try and stop. I'm so sorry. But as for this video, that's where we're going to stop it. I'm going to make this a two-parter. I know I'm not actually finished the run through yet, so I have to get through editing all of that. This is a lot of footage I have to go through, so it takes me a long time to do it. So I do apologize for that. However, we're not finished the run. We got to try and get Sky Spanner Cratch out of the way. And let me tell you, I do not do it in this stream. This stream, I end and I do not beat Sky Spanner Cratch. So in the next one, that's what I took on. And for seeing how that went down, you'll have to tune into the next video. I will try to have it uploaded in the next 2 weeks. Because again, it is a lot of footage and I'm not actually finished the run through. So if you do want to see that, I'm streaming these runs live over at twitch.tv/ChristianMartin. So if you want to go ahead and join in and see how it looks to actually take this on in real time, feel free to come and join. I would love to see you guys there. But until then, I will see you guys in the next part. Thank you so much for watching. Take it easy.